All right. And just like that, we are back. How's it going? Thursday, 11 a.m. Time for another RCS Live, as we do every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. As always, Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering here, hanging out with you, talking about GSelector and back to basics, how to add a song and customize your GSelector experience specifically with the custom song link window that is brand new in GSelector 5.1, which is available right now. If you don't have 5.1 just yet, you can reach out to RCS support or your local RCS contact. We'll get you in touch on there and get you upgraded as well. As always, some housekeeping to get out of the way first. As always, you can check out our, let's see here, our archive is always online over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live. Of course, you can go to youtube.com/rcsworks, or we got Twitch and Twitter Live and all of that good stuff. If there's a medium you want us to broadcast on, let us know, and we can add that to our list as well. You saw earlier, we are going to be out on the road for 2023. So excited to be back. I kind of felt like last year was a little bit of a test year, right? Kind of testing the waters and see how we're doing. But this year we're rearing, ready to go. And so we'll be at CRS. Then from there, Radio Days Europe, NAB, of course, and so much more. We're also do a lot of fun on-site stuff as well. We're going to do some RCS Academy, some live office hours, if you will. So if you're going to be out and about with us at these conferences, reach out. You go to marketing@rcsworks.com or email me or whomever, and we'll sit down, talk about, radio and talk shop and all of that good stuff. So if you got your database with you or something, we'll take a look at it and chat about things that we can do to hopefully improve your whatever it is, right? Because the whole idea about these RCS lives are, how do you know how to do something if no one told you it existed in the first place, right? That's the idea. So those are our upcoming events. We got a lot of great stuff lined up for you as well. For example, we have some, let's say, RCS shirts for sale as well, which is really cool. The cool little headphone logo. Shout out to Amy on that one. That's on you can check it out on the Facebook page and all the socials. You can check out the links there. And while you're there, if you want to become part of our studio spotlight, you can email marketing@rcsworks.com. Put you in touch on there as well. And if you are, speaking of music schedulers, we're looking for an outside account executive for our music scheduling. So if you want to check that out, that's over our career page, rcsworks.com/careers, if not mistaken, and so much more over there as well. Right? Right? Should we dive into it? Miss anything? Great. Let's go ahead and dive right into it here. We're talking about back to basics for 2023. Just reviewing some of the, anything you might have missed, the pillars of those basic information here. So I got my GSelector open. Yes, I got my dark mode turned on. I love it personally. And so let's first talk about adding a song. Now, if you have Zetta, I typically recommend starting with the Zetta side first, because that has your audio marks, like the trim in, trim out, intro, segues, and all that good stuff. And so why not, because you have to do that anyway, start on the Zetta side. And then while you're there, go into the station specific, add your sound codes, your themes, and whatnot. They carry over to GSelector because it's 100% live integration. But if you have some of those advanced scheduling techniques, I am the first one to tell you that I typically add some songs, some basic metadata over in Zetta, and then I pivot over to GSelector and continue that process through there because of the advanced options you can do inside of GSelector, right? So, by the way, I have my chat open here as well. So, many questions for me as we talk about this. I'm here to help out. That's the goal, okay? So, there are essentially two ways to add audio inside of GSelector. From the library in Browse, you can see there's a little plus icon here. That's going to be the add song. That opens a window just like this. That media ID is just because I have next in line. It's a little thing there. But you have essentially title, runtime, version, artist, album, and your categories here. Treat this as kind of a quick add in GSelector, right? A quick add. I'm just adding these basic metadata fields, hit OK, we call it a day, right? Me personally, I kind of prefer to work within the library and song tab itself. So you can see there's a lot of metadata here. I have that same little plus icon over here. And yes, my icons are nice and big because in GSelector 5.1, you can now scale those icons to your choosing, which is pretty cool, right? And so what you can do here is this is kind of more of a, we'll say a a bigger, more normal adding of a song. So you got your media ID on there. You can then have the title, artist, runtime, categories, complete works, all that good stuff. The difference here is that when I add information and click OK, it's going to bring me back to this window so I can add more of the advanced metadata to my GSelector song or link, right? So if the library browse was a quick add, the library song with the plus icon here is going to be more of a descriptive, returning you back to this window to continue to edit the song here. That's the goal, right? So let's kind of just talk about very briefly here. I really want to showcase the brand new custom song link window and build one with you. So I want to spend just a little bit of time reviewing what you can do when you're adding a song. And then, of course, we'll customize this window next. So visually speaking, in our default layouts, remember, we have this line down the center here, right? This is kind of the difference between global settings and station-specific settings. If you're ever curious, like, well, I don't know what deems it station versus global, well, think about it. If this is my history window and this is what played, right? If I'm looking at Wednesday the 25th and this is what Ed Sheeran played, is that a global setting? No, globally, that song didn't play on every station at noon on Wednesday. That is station specific on the right-hand side. Although on the left-hand side, you can see here, I've Ed Sheeran, there's a vocal male. Well, could be a global setting if you had that configured, right? Because it's going to be a vocal male. It's going to be across the board. Ed Sheeran's always a vocal male, right? So let's break this down. So if I just click any one of these cells here, it'll bring back that main edit song window with all of those elements here, media ID, title, artist, version, stuff like that. The album artist image here as well. We have our media down the center that is shared with Zetta. And yes, if you have Zetta integration enabled, these are disabled in GSelector, because think about it. You don't want an intern or somebody to go into the media in GSelector and change the runtime of a song that's tied to Zetta, right? That's a Zetta function. That's your automation function. If you don't have Zetta integrated, you can definitely customize this, because obviously that runtime comes into play for your hour and you're timing out your hour in there. So over here on the left-hand side, again, global settings here. I have a bunch of these. These are all just global on my database. If I was back when I was a PD, I typically had all of these station specific. I like to keep everything isolated. That's just me as a programmer, but I do totally understand that you can have, for example, the vocal male might be a global and an artist attribute. So what do I mean by that? Click on the edit. That brings up our coding window right here. And you can see a bunch of options, including the available attributes for station and all. If I hit the plus icon here, you can see this drop down. These are my global attributes, right? And this is the same window you can find over here on the right-hand side. The only difference is these are station-specific attributes. So if you're like me and you have station-specific content, you'll see station content there, right? And it'll be on the right-hand side versus the left. For my demo database, I typically have everything just kind of in the global, and I can go and show some more advanced stuff there. And so you can see there's artist attributes and there's song attributes. What's the difference between the two? Now, think about the Ed Sheeran vocal male. He's always going to be vocal male despite being on a top 40 station, a hot AC, or a rock, or whatever it is. It's always going to be a vocal male. Whereas if I have, let's say, a sound code or a content or something that's station specific or song specific, that might be a different story, right? So for example, here in content, if I have something like or pop or whatever it is in the content field, that's different across the board. It might be slightly different, right? So in that case, the artist could be vocal, but we typically want to focus on song attributes. If any of this seems a little too detailed for you, basic rule of thumb, you want to stick to song attributes. That's the idea. You just want to stick to song attributes. It's the most simplistic. It's song by song. It's not too complicated. Just keep it from there. If you're overseeing like 10, 5 stations and you want to have more of an easy kind of global aerial overview of your music, then yeah, you can start using some artist attributes across the board. And you can see here, there's the left, right arrows on the top and the bottom for song attributes, artist attributes. If I pivot to the participants, that gives us more of the classical stuff for the arranger, composer, orchestra, vocalist, writer, and all that good stuff. Remember, in GSelector, we work on vocalist fields because the idea is that if I have, let's say, moves like Jagger, it's Christina Aguilera and Maroon 5. There's two vocalists on that one song. We want to do vocalist min sep so that we can go and make sure we spread across Maroon 5 and spread across Christina Aguilera, more topical on there too. So just to be aware, that's in there. So again, add to song, add to artist, put the value in there. Boom, we're good, easy peasy. That's participants and attributes. As I said, I'm moving a little fast here. So if you want to review a little more, just let me know, or you can always go back and rewind this video on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. But I really want to showcase that custom song link window. On the right-hand side here, we have our station coding. Again, station coding RCS Hot AC, specific to RCS Hot AC. I have my category drop down here. The active is important because obviously certain songs can be active or inactive on a station. If it's inactive, GSelector doesn't really care about it during the scheduling process, right? It takes up less machine resources and more. Of course, it's always there in the background, kind of like Christmas right now. We could take all of our Christmas music, make it inactive. It's going to maintain all of the categories, the attributes, all the history. It's going to be there. And so when you reactivate it for Christmas time, it will like bring back like it never left. That's the idea for the active and inactive. We have the breakdown of our day parts here. Very simply, if there's a check mark, you can see the day part. It's scheduled to play in the clocks as defined by that day part. So in this circumstance, Ed Sheeran is in category A. That's my powers. And there is a category A. Sorry, I should say category group. There's a category group A being called for in the AM drive. That gives me then, of course, the demand, the turnover. I can just the shift, alternate categories, alternate packets, restrictions. You can see the full demand here as well. For example, the twofer has a little gray icon on here. And no, this is not something I can kind of click, for example. If I want to ban it, I could. But the idea of the gray circle means that there's currently no demand in the clocks for this particular day part for the category A. So if you're wondering what that means, you have a little gray circle. It just means that the category group is not being called for in the clock structure. So there's no demand for that song in that day part. That's all that means. From the attributes here, you can have, of course, your scalars 1 through 5, mood, energy, tempos. You can customize these as well. I forgot to mention, jumping back to the setup over here, this is where you define if those attributes are global or station specific, right? Let's click on the drop down and do station or global. Just be aware those values are tied to the corresponding attribute type. So if I have a vocal male and it's a global attribute, and then I switch the vocal to a station specific, that's a brand new attribute. I would have to recreate it or reassign it to that particular song, right? That's all that is. Typically, this is when we onboard you in GSelector or you inherit a database, we set it, we forget it, and we kind of move on from there as well. In addition, I want to talk about those scalars under Setup Station General. Right here is those scalars. I can click on this and edit the name as well as the values 1 through 5 if I wanted to, right? So if I want to change energy to like down versus upbeat, I can change it here in the value or the overall scalar itself, right? So if there is, let's say, I don't know, I keep saying this core artist, core song attribute. If you want a scalar of that, like how much of a core song is it? You can do that in the values here. And of course, don't forget, these are 1 through 5, which is just value fields. If you only want to use 1, 2, and 3, if the field is called like great, okay, and meh, you only use 3 values, right? That's all you're doing. So you don't need the additional 4 and 5 if you don't want it. It's just there in case you need it. Jumping back down to the library over here, remember, GSelector is linear. So when I move left to right, it's going to return right where I left off. So boom, back to the library. I'm in the song window, our scalars, station attributes, and a bunch of history down below, a lot of additional settings here that I'll save for a later time. Notice over here the additional tabs. So if I go to additional, that's going to give me my user-defined fields, including my custom user-defined fields, which are the 99 user-defined fields. That's right here for display purposes and to edit that. I have my notes in case I have notes. Audio analysis is typically if we can see the MP3 or the WAV file in GSelector, we can then do an analysis on that song, giving you BPMs, energy, tempo, textures, and stuff like that. It's a cool little tool, especially for colleges. Colleges are great there too. So, and then finally, we have the adjustments. I personally work in this window because I want to know how I'm adjusting songs. But typically, from the support perspective, a lot of users call in and say, why isn't this song rotating as much as others? Or why is this song banned? And 9 times out of 10, go to this adjustments window and you'll see that the particular song or whatever it is, the same adjustments is also available in the goals tab as well. It's because you inherited a database and some PD before you banned that song from that day part, and you're just not simply aware of it. So you can see here the adjustments for that particular song. Again, the same adjustments tab is here in the goals, so you can see a more wide range. This is just the song-specific adjustments. And I should say, finally, the multi-station tab. The idea here is that I can take a single song, span it across my GSelector database, essentially saying activate it on here, copy the attributes from RCS Hot AC, put it in the RCS alternative categories here if I want to do that as well. But I'll just cancel those changes for now. They're turning back to the main window. And again, that's kind of the basic. We're talking about adding a song, how you can kind of customize that based on the individual attributes themselves. But now, here's the fun part. If we really wanted to customize this and take this a next step further, we have a brand new feature in GSelector, Tools, Global Settings, and Song Link window. We're going to switch from Legacy to Custom, right? Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. That's going to close this, bring me back to the window here. And I'm just going to reopen this, and you'll see it's a much different looking song window. See this here? You're like, whoa, this is the same, but different, right? And that's because this acts almost like Zetta. We can customize this based on the attributes and fields that we care about. Now, this is just a little default one I have, kind of us playing around with it, lying around. And the idea here is I really want to customize this based on the information that I love, right? See, Mark, right? Good stuff, right, Mark? Thanks for checking in, Mark. I appreciate it. So what you can do here, right, is there's 2 brand new tabs. There's this window here and this window here. So you can kind of see there's a edit layout, and then we have our choosing of the defaults. And yes, you can have multiple layouts if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and toggle this edit layout. I'm going to open up this new design window, and I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new layout. We'll call this RCS Live 1, right? So boom. Oh, Mark's like, Nate, there's nothing here. What are we looking at, right? Let's start adding some stuff here, right? So what are we adding? You can see there's an attribute panel or an artist attribute panel with corresponding attributes and artist attributes, right? And so what we're going to simply do here is create a brand new attribute panel. And we'll call this like, I don't know, main attributes, short. And we'll go ahead and dock this in the top. Let's go ahead and create a second one, and we'll call this like station coding or something like that, right? And we're going to head and left click. Notice the up, down, left, right, very similar to Zetta. I'll put this in the middle, but I need to have some of those static panels, the ones that we have in every day. Me personally, I love the history window. I'm a big history guy, right? So there's my history. I'll take this. I'll put it right down here in the bottom. Boom. Now, let's just pretend for this particular layout, Mark loves multi-station. He's a global attribute guy. He likes to copy across, see what's playing across different stations. Maybe you have kind of a parent-child relationship. Maybe you have some type of publisher-affiliate relationship. I just want to see that same static panel for the multi-station, right? So there's multi-station, and I'm going to go ahead and put this. Let's just go ahead and dock it here on the left-hand side. I'm going to kind of make it a little smaller, all that space. Well, maybe not. I'll put it in the center. But keep it in the center. Keep it easy, right? So these are kind of overall displays, right? We need to start adding things that we care about inside of this. So we're going to go to this brand new design cogwheel here. Attributes themselves. Of course, notice the keyboard shortcuts on the right-hand side. Here's our attributes. And these are all of those attributes inside of GSelector. And now we can start customizing this based on things that we care about. So let's go ahead here. So for example, artist, that's pretty important. Let's put that in the main attributes. Let's put the active in the main attributes as well. Here, got to click on it, drag it over. And let's see here. BPMs, nah, I don't care about that. Ooh, category, that's kind of a pretty normal one here. I'll drag that in here as well. I don't have a complete work per se, so that's fine. I don't use that. Ooh, content. Ooh, I use content. Content's big on me. But is content a main attribute or is that a station coding, primary, secondary? How do you interpret content? For me, it's pretty important. I use it for a lot of my coding in the sense that dry imaging for forward momentum. In Zetta, I use the early seg. You might have seen a past video on this on the archive. Essentially, I code things based on their intro times. So 0 second is no intro, 5 second intro, 10-second intro. I put dry imaging over corresponding content attributes. Important to me. Drag into station coding. Cool. Call it a day. Let's see here. Ooh, date activated, date added. Let's do date added, and let's put that in there. That's a pretty that's important one, right? Maybe that's not in the traditional GSelector, but I care about date added, right? And then from there, let's go down a little more. So energy, that's a scalar one, but let's go ahead and let's leave there for now. Let's do era, right? We care about era. Put era in there. Genre, another one. Left click, drag it in. You can see, ooh, important information. This is a custom attribute that I put into Zetta in GSelector in a past video, again on our archive, rcsworks.com/rcs-live. I'm going to drag this in over here because that's important. This should be part of the main attributes over there on that side. And yes, I do have the chat open here. Give me 2 seconds. I'm reading your chats right now. Boom. Yep. So Will, absolutely. So Will is asking, does GSelector work with other radio automation systems aside from Zetta? 100%. We have tons and tons of users who utilize GSelector. We use the traditional flat file assignment here. So it allows you to schedule all of your music logs and then export that to any of your automation systems. We have everybody across the board. If you accept a flat file, which everyone does, you can utilize GSelector as well. Mark was asking here from the parent-child aspect, can we do automatically song attributes propagate down the line? Yes, we can. It depends on your setup in that parent-child. From my perspective personally, Mark, it really boils down to what are you trying to achieve? I'm more of a big S3 publisher affiliate relationship where you kind of dictate the music schedule and send it across. But I do understand the parent-child is definitely in there. So I will, to answer your question, yes, but it depends on how you have it configured. That's the biggest thing there, right? Let's see. Boom. I saw you, Mark. No, it's all good, Mark. Trust me. I've seen them all. I was just joking yesterday with one of our users, and I was talking about how we have a doctor show that I incorporate into GSelector. Some really cool stuff. Going back to these attributes here, things that we care about, right? So we created the panels here. We identified them as main and then station coding. These can be whatever you want them to be. I'm just going through here and seeing things I care about. Ooh, media ID. That's really important. I'll put that at the very top of that list there, right? And then, of course, just for argument's sake, let's pretend here in this particular setup, I really care about musician. That's what I care about. I'll bring it in here, put it down in there. So you can see we're adding these. I'll just quickly grab sound code. Again, I know I'm missing some of the basics, but it's going to kind of show you what's going on. There's textures. Ooh, title. That's kind of important, right? So artist title, put title in there. And then version, vocal. Vocal we'll put here in one of these categories, something like this. And we'll put vocalist here maybe as like, I don't know, the very bottom of that attribute there, right? So again, what we're doing here is we're customizing this window. Again, from me personally, I really care about the history, the station coding, my main attributes, and my multi-station activations. That's what I care about. That's what's here. That's why I'm saving this particular layout. So let's go ahead and save this layout right now, right? And let's see our results. We'll switch back to this main window here. And you can see I'm going to switch from my layouts, right? I have a couple of them to choose from. Now there's RCS Live. I can, of course, always default these if I wanted to. And look at that. boom, there's my brand new main attributes, multi-station, station coding history window. And there's two ways to look at this. Either A, wow, this is way more streamlined, way more easy to see, and it's a little more specific of what I care about in GSelector. And that's the point. Notice the multi-station prominently displayed here. The history, super large, because that's what I care about. And then the basic station coding and whatnot. And of course, anything ever happens, you can always toggle back to different layouts. So we encourage our users to have a multi-station layout versus a traditional main layout. Maybe there's an entirely new, different, additional features. Or I mentioned earlier, this important information is a user custom field that I created in both Zetta and GSelector that's shared across. Maybe you have a lot of user-defined fields that are very important to you. Let's do that, right? Let's go back to the edit layout here. RCS Live. Let's go to static panels and do things like you can see here, some research. If you're a big researcher, that's there for you too. Future move. The day parts, that's important. Forget about that. Let's put that day parts here, maybe on the right-hand side in between that multi-station. And now we can kind of condense that a little bit. We don't need all that information there that's needed. I'll condense that. And then I have the day parts nice and prominent. And maybe, let's see here, I'll do under the attributes, you can see the user-defined fields that are here. Now, they're kind of labeled kind of generic right now. There's some peak years and stuff like that. Of course, you can always customize them based on what you want them to be. And then from there, put those in here as well. So maybe that's something like you do a brand new attribute panel, right? We'll call this user-defined fields. Hit OK. Notice the little highlight there to tell you what's going on. I'll move it to the right-hand side. There's my user-defined fields. And now I go back to those attributes. And now I have like association, I know is definitely one of them. I have like peak year is one of them there. Stuff like these are all kind of, again, user attributes. I created that important information already, but you can see we can define this in here to really customize these user-defined fields. Close this. Let's go ahead and take this and we'll save this layout. Return back to our main screen there. And now, ooh, look at that. Now we're going from a simple layout to a little more complex because these are things that I care about most in my GSelector. How cool is that? So this is a brand new feature that's in GSelector 5.1. As I said, it's available right now. You can reach out to RCS support and we can get you hooked up with that upgrade. It's all free as part of your GSelector contract and support contract, so there really shouldn't be any issues there, unless, of course, you're Mark, who says he's complicated, but I don't believe you're complicated, Mark. I think you're fine. I was looking at I saw Mark's "I'm complicated" comment again, and I laughed. So yeah, that's the custom song link window. Last call for questions here. If you have any questions on how this is built or how this is designed, don't judge me for my demo database. I'm always in here with users playing around, adding things randomly. So yeah, these rotations are literally just me playing around my database. Don't judge me on my rotations, please. That's a different conversation. Last call for questions. If you have any questions for me, get them in right now. Otherwise, don't forget, check out the archive for past videos, rcsworks.com/rcs-live. In addition, you go to youtube.com/rcsworks. Any which way you want to go towards seeing the past videos, you totally can. And of course, our show list coming up for 2023, CRS, NAB, Radio Days, all those stuff. We're there hanging out. We'll be there live in person, and we want to hang out with you and talk shop. So if you're going to be there, reach out to me on social media, to marketing at rcsworks.com. We'll get you in touch there to talk about some fun radio stuff too. And as I said, this is the custom song link window, brand new in 5.1. Really, we encourage you, design this based on what you want to do. And with the dropdown, you can have multiple layouts. So why not have different types of layouts based on what you want? A default layout that's nice and simple, an advanced layout for advanced fields, maybe a multi-station, maybe a research-focused layout, and everything is just pure research. Oh, there's so many things you can do with this custom song link window. We want to give you the tools to apply this based on your music philosophy. That's what we're doing here. Right, Will? Let's see. Will, that's a loaded question. Will is asking, what are your recommendations for automation systems? It's all based on you, Will. It's based on your budget, your system resources, and your needs. Obviously, we have here Zetta. That's our latest and greatest automation software used by hundreds of clients all throughout the world. It's phenomenal. But of course, it all depends on what you need for your station, right? That's what that boils down to. So awesome. So listen, I will see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time for another RCS Live. You can always check out our archive, rcsworks.com/RCS-live. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.